Hello everybody, this is Diesel261, and today I'm going to show you how to rig a locomotive. Now, this will be for animation, not for trains, sorry. And it will be a particular type of valve gear. It's not going to be perfectly accurate to how a real one works, but it should do what you need to do. So, for this tutorial we're going to be using Murdoch, made by Thomas Modeler 1 on Twitter, that's his handle, and Kiwi Conductor, and yeah, very good model. So, also apologies in advance, I am not a very good teacher. So we're going to start off by making sure that the wheel meshes, their origin points, are all perfectly centered, which they are. I've already done that on this one. So, and we're going to create a lattice here, go into edit mode, and just scale it up so that it fits the diameter. Doesn't have to be perfect, but yep. Then we're going to parent this wheel to that lattice. Control P, object. Yep, it's working now. And now we're going to select this bit, cursor to selected, and in the view options we're going to set the 3D cursor's location to 1.5 for this one, so that's actually maybe 2, just so that it's like a good distance away and you can easily select everything, because the position of the x-axis doesn't matter. Going to create another lattice, going to scale it down appropriately, and we're going to we're going to leave that for now. I'm going to parent it to this wheel lattice here. There you go. Going to set a lattice here where this rod connects. This rod connects, so we'll duplicate this one, just scale it down a bit more. Right, now I should have started with this, but like I said, I'm not a great teacher. I'm going to create a plane at the center. Actually no, sorry, I'm going to select all the driving wheels. Let's see. Okay, they're already like pretty bang on, but if they were not, if the the center of this wheelbase here was not like perfectly on the world's Y0, then what we would do is we would copy these, select everything, press G, and then not move it at all, but in the Y-axis, paste it, and just make it a positive or a negative. Add or remove a minus sign depending on if there is one. And yeah, that's about it. Now we're going to make a plane. Going to press Alt-G to set it to the center. Gonna scale it out on the x-axis just a little. Add a loop cut in the middle with Control R. And make a loop cut for each wheel. So just, hang on, let's turn on the snapping. And for any bogies or pilot wheels you might have, put a loop where it will pivot. So in this instance, it will pivot like roughly around about here. So you will want to do that and make one for the wheel as well. And just one, move it further out, just a little bit beyond the buffers, front buffers. And yeah, do the same for the back. Extrude with E. put one round about the center of here. If you had like a drawbar, which this model does not, you'd want to like, well actually you wouldn't want to do anything, but yeah, I'm yeah, not brilliant at this. One for each wheel, one just beyond the buffers. Now we're just gonna, this next bit isn't necessary, but I like to do it. Alright, make it like a nice arrow. Select everything and only faces. That will get rid of only the faces and leave all the edges in place. And we're gonna name this like something so it's easier to find. I'm gonna name it S7 Murdoch base. And always make sure to keep saving your work. Now we're going to select this lattice from the beginning, add object constraint, copy rotation of this one. Now it doesn't make sense quite yet, but it will in a moment. Now we're going to select this main side rod and then this lattice, Control P object, and there you go. I'm just gonna make some more lattices like for each of these wheels. You're gonna want to make sure that they are perfectly centered, otherwise it's all going to look very wrong. Oh. Just parent the wheels to the objects. Now, this middle one, this main one, which the piston connects to, it turns, but none of the others turn with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a copy rotation constraint for one of these. So, and set the target to this main lattice here. And now both of them turn. And so that we don't have to do it for every single one, we're gonna select the other ones that we want to put the constraint on, and then select the one that we have just put the constraint on. Click this little arrow and copy to selected, and now all of them will turn. Alright. So now we're going to start off with the main cylinder. If your cylinders have an incline, make sure that you have the number here, so that, yeah, do not apply the rotation because it's important that you have the number, and make sure that the cylinder's incline and the piston's incline and all that are exactly the same, because it's very important. If okay, so set to 2. Make sure that you place the cursor in such a way that it will, I'm not quite sure how to explain it, but yeah, the pivot point for this is going to be here, and same for this. So that's, yes it is. So we're going to add an armature. We're going to select the cylinder, hover over Control C on the X rotation, and then do the same for the bone, so that now these two share the exact same rotation value. I'm going to press G, Z, and then Z again, so that we'll go along the local axis, and type in like -10,000 or something like ridiculously long, because what happens is it's going to go we're going to use inverse kinematics to follow this wheel, and it's going to go in a circle, but the radius of the circle is going to be so big that it's going to be indistinguishable. So we're going to go into edit mode of the bone, and by default the head of the bone is selected when you go into edit mode, so we're going to go selection to cursor. Yep, and you might notice that that's a bit unsightly, so what I like to do, and this isn't a necessary step, but what I like to do is in the viewport display, set it to stick, and then we're just going to extrude it. Going to set the cursor to that position, Shift S, selection to cursor, so now this is all lining up very nicely. Now we're going to go Control Tab into pose mode, select this bone, add bone constraint, inverse kinematics, and set it to this lattice here. And would be good. There we go. Now you'll see that the bone is moving in the way that we want it to. We're going to select this rod here, select the armature, go into pose mode. With this bone selected, press Control P and parent to bone. So now, yep, that's all working. We're going to set the cursor here. We're going to create a lattice. And this one doesn't have to be rotated, but I'm going to do it anyway. We're going to object constraint, copy location of the armature, and we're going to copy the location of the second bone. And we're going to select this, the piston, and then this lattice, Control P, object. And now that's all working very nicely. Next up, we're going to rig these rods. Now, on this loco, the valve gear is a little bit different to what you conventionally get, but really the only difference between this and the regular one is these two rods. Normally, on a regular one, this would be like connected somewhere up further down here. I'm not sure how to explain it, but it shouldn't be too difficult to switch everything around for what you need. So I'm going to start off with this one, Shift S, selection to cursor, X location to 2. Yep, that's all nice. Going to add an armature. I'm going to select this little pin down here, set the location to 2. Shift S, selection to cursor, that lattice over there, selection to cursor. I'm going to set the viewport display to stick. Now, we're going to add another inverse kinematics constraint. So inverse kinematics, and this lattice here. That's all working nicely. Going to select this pin here. Oops. That's not what I wanted. There we go. Another lattice. And we're going to select the armature and parent the lattice to this selected bone here. So now, there we go. Select this rod, parent it to the bone. Select this rod, parent it to the bone. So yeah, that's how you'd rig normal ones, like a normal one. Now we're going to rig these two, because this is a little bit different. I'm not quite sure what this valve gear is called. I'm not like an encyclopedia. So we're going to get the rotation value of this. Control C, Control V, Z on the local axis by tapping Z twice, or just setting it to local up here, but I don't like to do that. GZ local negative 10, oops, negative 10,000. Selection to cursor, stick, and I did not set it properly, hang on. It's always good to just get out of the orthogonal view every now and then, just check that everything's lined up. Now we're going to set this bone over to there. Control tab, inverse kinematics. And what these two are, they're essentially like the same as this. They function the same. So I'm going to add another lattice here. I'm going to add, actually no, what we can do, oh wait, never mind. What we are going to do is add a copy rotation, armature, bone 1. Not copy rotation, I'm dumb. Copy location, armature 02, bone 01. So now, there we are, and just parent everything up. Parent it to the bone, parent this to the object. So yeah, that's the valve gear all done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to mirror it and quarter it. So what that involves is, this is a bit of a fiddly process, and apologies if I'm not too talkative, because, yeah. So we're going to select all of these, going to set the pivot to the cursor, set the cursor to world origin, we're going to shift D, S, negative, S, X to limit it to the X axis, and then -1. And we're going to just Control A, scale. That's all good. Now, we're going to set the cursor to that, and we're going to select these two, R90, or is it -90? And just until these look correct. Normally you wouldn't have to do all this, because yeah, I think this is how it was on the television prop. But anyway, normally just the rotation would be enough. So let's just double check. Seems to be working, so we'll just parent everything. Oh. Yep. Okay. Now, ideally before you start, you'll want to like double check everything to make sure that everything's nice and neat and all lined up and such. But I didn't do that with this one. Now remember, when parenting to the bone, it's Control P, bone. It's very important, you'll want to remember that. Okay. Is it all good? Looks like it. Excellent. Now we are going to just set the cursor to world origin. We're going to add another lattice. And you can name all of these lattices if you want. I don't, because I'm usually able to keep track of everything. But we're going to just make this roughly the size of the locomotive. And this step isn't strictly necessary, but I like to do it because it's organized. So yeah, that's all good. Got the locomotive. Yep. We're going to just select everything and just hide it. Select everything that you want that is part of the locomotive, but not the wheels and such. We are going to select the armatures. Now, Alt H. Oh. Just ignore those. And then we're going to select this big lattice. Control P, object, oops, and we're going to select these lattices, these wheel lattices, and parent them to this as well. And why did I not do something? There we go. Okay, just yep, that's all working. Now what we're going to do is, over here we're going to make yet another lattice, and we're going to scale it like this. Now the size doesn't change anything with the functionality of the lattices necessarily. It's just, I just do this for readability. Now in edit mode, and make sure you do this in edit mode, we're going to move it down. Again, this is for readability, but you'll want to make sure that the pivot point, the origin point, is at the center of the wheel, of the back wheel. So yeah, gonna duplicate it and put it over there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to select this lattice, and we're going to select our base and select these three. Control P, make vertex parent. So now you'll see follows the thing. And do the same for the front one. Okay. And for the back one, we're going to add an object constraint. Lock track, and we're going to add two of them. We're going to set it to -y. We're going to set one to Z and one to X, and we're going to set them to follow this lattice over here. So we'll just give that a test. Yep, that's how, so you know it's working. What this does is when it's following a path, it helps it turn. It helps the locomotive turn. Which is why you'll want to make sure that you've got it all nicely set up. Hang on, let me just... Yep, it's all looking good. And we're going to select this big lattice and parent it to the back one. That's all good. And what we're going to do is select, just going to add another lattice over here. And what's the Z for this one? Z, Control C, Control V. Yep, all looking nice. Going to add a lattice here as well for this wheel. Going to parent this up to these vertices. So that's all looking good. Parent these. Oh wait, hang on. Make sure that you add the locked track constraints before you parent anything to them, because they're a bit weird like that. Okay, now we're going to select this pilot bogie and the wheel lattice and just parent them to this. That's all good. That's going to allow that to turn. Now, that's all well and good, but we want these wheels to turn automatically. So we're going to select the middle. We're going to select the middle wheel lattice, the center one, and you can do this for all of them. But I like to just have the rest just copy the rotation because it's much easier, so it's not a lot of time. So we're going to select the center one, and we're going to select the X rotation input here. Going to right click, and we're going to select Add Driver and rotation. So you can see that that input is purple. That means it's got a driver. So we're just going to get a window open here, set it to drivers, and X Euler rotation. Press N to open this little box here, and we're going to set the type to averaged value, and we're going to get the object as the base. I'm going to set it to Y location local space. And now, still a bit left, but you can see we're nearly there. I'm going to go into modifiers, generator. I'm going to set it to -1 to start with, and zoom in real close here. As you can see, that's not quite turning fast enough, so we're just going to make it a greater negative value. Bit more. How about -2? And really, this is just a bit of going back and forth. Oh, that's a bit too fast. Okay, I think I'll just tick this to show all the drivers that are in your blend file, so that way you don't have to keep going back and forth. That looks about right. So -1.2. Now it is partially influenced, I believe, by the object's scale, which is why I prefer to scale them up. It makes it easier. So as you can see, works perfectly. Let's do the same. Now we're just gonna right click this, copy driver, and we're gonna paste it here. Just make sure it's correct. That's too slow. Oops. It's a bit too fast now. Negative. You'll want to make sure that you're looking at the inside of the wheel, where the wheel like actually touches the rail, looking for the rotation speed of that, and not the flange, because otherwise they'll be spinning too fast on the rails and it will look weird. That looks close enough, and now we're going to just rig up the tender. And if you wanted to just make a train of these, you'd just like rig up like one piece of rolling stock separately. I like to do tender engines with the whole thing like as one piece, but you can do it separately if you want, and then just like have them up behind. And that's how you'd rig a train, like a whole thing. And select the center wheel, set the cursor's X position to 0 and the Z position to 0 as well. I'm going to make the encompassing lattice, the bounding box, if you will. Gonna just parent them to that. Gonna make the wheels. Oh, come on. It's a bit fiddly when you're trying to make very fine selections in Blender, but what can you do? Copy rotation of this. I'm going to parent the wheels up. And what we're going to do is add these things, not quite sure what to call them, to the front and back wheels. And the reason that it's for the front and back wheels is because it helps get an accurate pivot. Make the vertex parent. Really just a lot of the same stuff that we did on the Loco, and this is how you'd go about doing all sorts of like railway stuff. So yep, add the locked track constraints, negative y, just make sure, yep, it's all good. Control P, object. Going to paste the driver, save ourselves a bit of work, and just edit it. Let's see, it was negative 1.7. Let's try that. Yeah, that looks about good. There you go, that's how you rig a locomotive.